and education. A new patriotic party supporters in Kumasi give rousing welcome to the party's 2012 flag bearer as he arrives in the city to meet the Asante Hene. We also have news on February inflation coming up in business, sports, showbiz, and international news all coming up. Stay tuned.
With Israel Live.
Right now, very first story. The Ghana Highway Authorities announced will close a portion of the Kratema motorway to make way for the reconstruction of a faulty bridge. The closure is expected to last 5 weeks, during which traffic will be diverted onto the Kratema portion of the motorway. My colleague Nia Krofis Matabe just returned from the motorway and joins me in the studio. Good evening to you, Nia Krofis. What exactly did you find out when you went up there, and what is the Ghana Highway Authority saying?
Okay, good evening, Israel. When I got to the motorway, the bridge in question is actually the one that is just a few meters away from the Accra Abattoir, but it's on the Tema to Accra end of the motorway. One thing you notice when you get there is that you see that there's this gaping hole in the outer lane of the bridge, and the bridge itself apparently is weak. So I stood on the bridge whilst talking to the engineer, and the cars were passing, and you feel the vibration in the bridge. So then the engineers were telling me they have to actually take off that portion of the bridge, take the entire bridge out, and then recreate another bridge.
Okay, if you say take the entire bridge out, they're going to take the entire bridge?
It's I think a 9 meter, no, on the Tema Accra end. So they have to take that part. The Accra Tema end, the bridge is okay, it's solid, no problem with that. But the Tema to Accra end bridge is the one that is shaking, is the one that has the vibration and has the hole in it. So they have to take it out.
Do you know when this hole appeared?
I asked Mr. Donko, and he tells me they got a call sometime yesterday about the bridge. So they also came on site today and they saw it. So they had to start, they had to cordon off a portion of the road and start working on it. So he actually tells me that they're going to start work as soon as possible, and it will take about 5 weeks.
This 19-meter span bridge will be completely reconstructed by removing the entire deck and replacing. The beams are good. In fact, it's a composite bridge, and composite, what I mean is that the main beams are of steel construction, and then the deck is a reinforced concrete. It's the reinforced concrete that has deteriorated to the point that it started to punch out, and that is what we're going to replace. The main beams, if you could take a camera of it, a shot of it, you'll see it's intact. It's galvanized steel. It's still capable of carrying the loads that are going to come on this motorway for a considerable level of time.
What time frame will you be working with as you reconstruct the beam?
In total, we are looking at least 5 weeks. 5 weeks, let's say 1 week to remove the entire deck, do the formwork, put in the reinforcement, and then recast the concrete. The casting will be done in a short time. It's just about 90 cubic meters of concrete to cast. It's not too long. We should be able to cast it in a day. But concrete takes time to cure. And that means we will have to leave it for it to cure for a minimum of 14 days. The best will be 21 days, and the utmost is 28 days. So if we're able to do this in 1 week, then it takes an extra 4 weeks to get a concrete cured enough for us to open it to traffic. We might attempt to use other additives that can make concrete gain strength quicker. But if we're unable to find those additives in the local market, then we'll go for the traditional one, which takes 28 days to cure. And that is basically what we intend to do.
All right, so what exactly is... I can imagine that this has created quite a bit of traffic, because I can imagine that one lane where the gaping hole has appeared is going to be closed. Yeah. So how are motorists coping, and what are the plans of the Ghana Highway Authority over the 5 weeks that the bridge is going to be closed?
Well, actually, they've cordoned off close to about 100 or 150 meters away from the bridge. So you know it's a 2-lane going to Accra, but they've cordoned it off so it becomes a 1-lane coming towards Accra now. So when we were there even speaking to Mr. Donko and his team, you could see their cars, lots of them behind, and they are all waiting patiently to join the 1 lane that will now lead them to Accra. But surprisingly, where it had been cordoned off close to the bridge, the traffic was flowing quite all right. But behind us, that was where the problem was. And that's how motorists are going to have to deal with the situation for a while, because it means then that till the work is done or till they decide to cut off completely the bridge or the very portion of the road leading to the bridge, it means that drivers will now have to contend with using 1 lane into Accra and then 1 lane into Tema. But Mr. Donko explains it further.
We intend to create a diversion in the median. I think you will see that we've started clearing the place. We'll create 2 diversions in the median, let's say about 400 meters apart, to divert all traffic from Tema onto the Accra-bound lane. Once they cross the bridge, we'll bring them back. But that is the reason why we have 2 diversions. And in the meantime, traffic restrictions will be maintained on the good portion of the bridge, which is the Tema-bound lane. So the Tema-bound lane, instead of having 2 lanes going to Tema, is going to be 1 lane from Accra and then 1 lane from Tema. We know it's going to be a bottleneck, but this road takes 38,000 vehicles a day, 20 to Tema and then 18 to Accra. So we may have to make do with, that construction around the bridge at kilometer 12 plus 300 until we finish.
All right, so there was the update on the partial closure of the motorway. In other news, $100 million invested into the Korle Lagoon ecological restoration project is now gone down the drain. This is because 10 years after the money was pumped into the project, there is virtually nothing to show. With indications from authorities, it will actually cost a lot more to achieve the initial objective. MFA Ewenam Etiamwa Eli reports work on the project has currently been suspended until residents of Old Fadama, who are holding back the project, are relocated.
Poor waste disposal, mainly by people living along the once attractive Korle Lagoon in Accra, is blamed for the destruction of the landmark. Governments over the years thought it wise to restore this lagoon to its former ecologically and financially valuable status, and therefore initiated the Korle Lagoon Ecological Restoration Project. It's been over a decade now since the start of this project, and the current state of the lagoon is nothing to write home about.
Even though government previously invested so much in restoring the ecology of that lagoon, to me, what I say is that the money has just gone into the drain for the benefits that we're supposed to derive from the project have not been derived yet, because the expectation was that at the end of the day we could have some life, especially fishes should be, at least we should be able to do some fishing, at least just like we have elsewhere. You can have it all over the world, that we can have clean water within cities. We can do navigation on it, and we have aqua life. Those were the vision that the government at that time had, and then sank close to about $100 million at that time in restoring that lagoon. Unfortunately, the situation now, we've completely failed. It did not work.
Besides the Ecological Restoration Initiative, the project was also intended to improve Accra's drainage, flooding and sanitation problems. But from all indications on the ground, these intentions are yet to be realized. Over $100 million was invested in the dredging of this Korle Lagoon with the aim of bringing it back to life. Many years on, efforts at restoring this landmark, which is in the heart of the city of Accra, has gone down the drain. What is the reason? Pollution poor human activities has rendered this landmark very unattractive. Deputy Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, Vincent Opong, explains the project has been unsuccessful because of the failure to relocate the old Fadama community.
The residents over there wouldn't want to go through the same problems what we had initially, but we invested money and we had to lose so much from there. So, you know, there's a plan to move business activities within that Accra area to a new site. And this thing is going to happen before even the restoration that I'm talking about even begins.
He's, however, optimistic. With the over $600 million funding secured under the Conti project, work will resume on the dredging of the lagoon.
It's quite a huge amount that is supposed to build our drainage systems, and as part of it, we are going to dredge Korle.
The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development has signed a contribution agreement with 6 sub-project organizations on food security and environment in Accra. This forms part of an 8-year Canadian project to assist Ghana in its efforts to achieve food security through environmentally sound agricultural development.
The project started in 2008 as the Government of Canada made a financial commitment of $40 million. The total cost of the 4th batch sub-project is $3,385,000 Ghana cedis and is expected to improve food insecurity challenges facing the 3 northern regions of Ghana. Earlier project reports show some major improvements in selected communities in the northern regions, such as increased yields of maize and shelf life of yams.
We were extremely impressed by the achievements and the progress. There were some challenges, but those can be corrected. But overall, significant improvement and results, and we're very happy and proud to be associated with those results. And we are really looking forward to working with you, working with the government and supporting you, and to the kind of results and changes that you will bring about in your communities and in your district.
Sector Minister Akwesi Oponfusu commended the 6 organizations for their successes in the bidding process and urged them to meet the project's expectations.
Their success in the bidding process is the beginning of a long and hopefully a sustained public-private partnership between the ministry and the organizations. We wish to make a difference in the improvement of the incomes of people and reducing the hunger period of beneficiaries in the 3 northern regions. It has become important to act together in partnership to overcome this crisis of food insecurity in the 3 northern regions. I would like to use this opportunity to inform interested organizations who have innovative ideas in food security to be on the lookout for the next call for proposals.
The contribution agreement with the 6 organizations brings to a total of 21 sub-projects under the Canadian Food Security and Environmental Facility and is expected to end in May 31, 2016.
Now, commuting in the northern part of Ghana has to be either by motorbike or bicycle, even though very few go by taxis and buses. The motorbike is the trotro of the people. That is why a ban on men riding it in Bawku and 2 other districts in the Upper East region is taking quite a toll. Manasseh Azuria, when he recently traveled to Bawku, and reports the ban, which has been in place for more than 3 years now, is seriously affecting business, health and education.
Motorbikes are the most popular means of transport in the 3 regions of the north. Women, men and children ride to work, school, or from one community to the other. For some, it is the only means of transport available. Unfortunately for the men of Bawku, this means is not available to them. Because of the protracted conflict in the area, men have been banned from riding motorbikes. The ban also affects the Binduri and Puska districts, which were part of the Bawku municipality when the ban came into force 3 years ago. In these districts, only women are allowed to ride motorbikes. Men of the state security agencies are also allowed to ride motorbikes, only if they are in uniform. The Bawku Municipal Chief Executive, Bukari Isaku, explains the rationale for the ban.
The point, it was like if motorbikes that people use to cause trouble in town. especially within the municipality and the outskirts. People go outside and people, in the name of armed robbery, shoot and kill and pick the motor, and it becomes a tribal issue. Because if you shoot and you kill somebody, assuming if somebody within the township goes outside and is shot, the people may think that those people from there, if you are a Mosi or if you are a Mamprusi, and you go and you are killed at the territory of a Kusasi, even though it may be armed robbery, but it's an issue. So at a point, national security thought it wise to place the ban on the motorbikes.
Some argue that Bawku is the most economically viable town in northern Ghana. The municipality has 2 entry points to Togo and Burkina Faso, making it a hub for businesses.
We normally use the motors, travel outside Bawku, especially Sankansi and Bito at Burkina, and the rest of the village around Bawku. So on banning the riding of the motor, it affected a lot.
The motor riding used to bring more revenue to the government, right?
How?
Because when we are riding motor from here to Sankansi, it used to be maybe 30 minutes. Sometimes
that's Togo.
That's Togo, yeah. which is not quite far. But right now, because we are not riding motor, the Okadas are not really moving well because the road too is bad.
To the east, we have Togo. Then to the west, we have Burkina Faso. The people in this town need to commute with motorbikes to run to Sankansi, buy goods, come and sell it in this town. Others need to go to be too far away in Burkina Faso. And because of the embargo, we have no alternative than to go in for motorking. And motorking too is cost intensive. It goes from 3,000 Ghana cedi to 4,500 Ghana cedi.
The ban does not only affect business activities, as motorbikes are indispensable in healthcare delivery here. Some patients are carried to health facilities on motorbikes during emergencies. Many healthcare professionals also rely on motorbikes to get to work.
The ban on motorbike riding by males specifically is affecting the health service delivery. In terms of access, males cannot ride motorbikes to interior communities unless they use a vehicle.
Another sector that has been affected by the ban is education. Supervision is almost impossible without motorbikes.
As of now, we have 16 sector supervisors. So among the means, the 12 could not ride motors, except the females who were just 4. And we had to manage with it. What we did was to reshuffle so that they would go to the little distant areas, so that the female could ride. But the majority of the sectors, the Ban A up to D, Mognore, all those around, definitely male sector supervisors would not do their work effectively.
So when will the men in Bawku, Pusga and Binduri have the opportunity to ride motorbikes again? Regional Minister and Chairman of the Upper East Regional Security Council, Alhaji Limuna Muniru, says authorities are treading cautiously.
Because of the packets of tensions that are coming up, we think at this moment it is not appropriate to lift it, because some of the vehicles for causing mayhem and confusion is also the same motorbike. And so we want to just steady the situation, allow it a few weeks and see if we're able to calm down the tensions that we think are coming up. I think things will be okay and we may lift it for them too.
The men in Bawku, Pusga and Binduri cannot wait to ride their motorbikes. Authorities, however, say they cannot sacrifice the peace in the area for the comfort of residents. So, residents may have no option but to choose peace if they want their bikes back. For Joy News, Manasseh Azore Arene reporting.
We have more stories coming up after the break. Don't go away. The Ghana Police Service is patting itself on the back over what it believes is a reduction in crime due to its police visibility initiative. It's been a little over a year since the initiative was introduced by current IGP Al-Hassan Mohammed. Gifty Andapia joined the team and reports on what sets them apart from their regular colleagues.
It's a hot afternoon in Accra, and the Ghana Police Service is about to dispatch about 200 men and women in uniform to take up positions on various streets in the capital. Their job will be basically to monitor what happens in town and also be there for the general public. The Visibility Police is an entire department of the Ghana Police Service. After just a few hours with them, it became apparent their day can be quite unpredictable and tasking. The police service explained checking documents covering vehicles and driver's licenses is not one of their responsibilities unless it becomes very necessary. The Director of Project and Visibility is ACP Sikanate.
It has really reduced the occurrence of crime. Police response time has greatly increased because as the people are by their various duty locations, accidents that occur, anything that occurs, they quickly call to inform the base, and the message is relayed to the necessary police units for quick action.
A key challenge facing the visibility team, however, is a lack of toilet facilities.
The men sometimes, when they want to ease themselves, they have to move from the duty location, go a begging places, and sometimes, especially when water is not flowing, people turn them back and they have a tough time making themselves free. We have applied or requested for support for Zoomlion for these mobile toilets, and we are still working with them to get some supplies.
The Ghana Police Service says the Visibility Trail is part of a three-step policing innovation, namely visibility, accessibility and walking the beat. They are currently at phase 2 of the visibility stage and hope to go nationwide. Meanwhile, the police service has condemned officers who hide at intersections so they can arrest motorists who break the law, whilst explaining that officers are not supposed to be engaged in that kind of activity.
This should make you feel much more secured in town. Police visibility, they call it. Police officials say these men are well prepared for whatever season. The only thing that's lacking, though, is where to go when nature calls. But beside that, these men appear to be doing just fine. It seems that the police got it right this time. Hopefully, this will last for as long as necessary. For Joy News, Gifty Andopia, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, Accra.
Well, it turns out members of the public seem to agree the police visibility initiative is indeed making a difference. Here are some views sampled on the streets of Accra.
Police officers around, I think it's good because it helps minimize crime actions in the country. Yes, so I think it's good.
I think it's a good idea because, it creates awareness in the society, making it very difficult for crime to be rampant in the society.
When somebody plans to do something, they sees the policeman around, it deters the person a bit, and then the person thinks twice before acting. So, especially the drivers and then the commercial drivers, they find it difficult doing certain things when the policeman is around. So, they should keep it up. They should stay around.
It's normal. When we see them around, it's like they protect us. So I don't feel bad. Me per se, I don't feel bad. So it's a nice thing to see a policeman around.
In a related development, the police service will later this month launch what it calls a public confidence campaign. A statement signed by the Director General of Public Affairs, GCOP David Nenyi Ampa-Benning, indicates the campaign is to improve officers' professional conduct and curtail practices which dent the image of the service. The statement further says this is to inch up practices in the service towards international best practices. The police service is therefore entreating members of the public to look out for this campaign, which comes with sharing of armbands and badges that condemn bribery. The Human Rights Court in Accra is set to rule on a case in which a citizen is suing the state for 2 million Ghana cedis after he was held in remand for 14 years. Francis Ejari, a motorcycle mechanic, was released unconditionally in May 2008. But he says the detention cost him his family and the enjoyment of his fundamental human rights. His lawyer is optimistic the court will tomorrow, Thursday, hand down justice to his client, and by extension the thousands who are on remand in the country's prisons due to failures in the penal system.
Francis Ejari, now 46, was unlawfully arrested on January 5, 1994, with about 57 other suspects at the Jamestown beach where he had gone to buy fish after one Fufu Afagaji, who is now facing life imprisonment in the Exawan maximum prisons, pointed at him as one of his accomplices. Without any investigation to ascertain the veracity of the allegation, together with the other suspected accused persons, he was charged with robbery and taken to court on January 10, 1994. The police applied during his first appearance and was remanded in prison custody pending further investigations and trial together with other accused persons. But that was the longest wait of his life, as it took 14 years, 6 months for him to be released unconditionally by Lord D.K. Ofosukwati J.
They brought us to the court, Cocoa first, and then they reminded me. Since then, no court. I was there for 14 years, 6 months. No court, no nothing.
After his release on May 29, 2008, Francis, traumatized, tried to get justice, moving from media house to media house. When all else failed, he attempted to commit suicide, but was rescued by an NGO. Moved by his plight, after his story was broadcast on television, Francis Xavier Kojofosu, a human rights lawyer with FX Law and Associates, took up the matter.
Now, it is important for us to understand that when we talk about the ends of justice, people who are wrongly accused feel vindicated if the court can actually pronounce that they were wrongly accused. We will not preempt what the court will say tomorrow. But throughout the case, when we did our case, Attorney General was unable to provide any defense to the action. And so the obvious thing is that the declaration in our favor is going to be the case. But of course, we cannot preempt that. We leave that to the court to do tomorrow. And we are hoping that the compensation that we have actually requested for, we would be given that compensation as well. And we believe that even declaring that that act was unconstitutional will be enough compensation for Francis Ejari.
He was worried police investigators are to blame for the predicament of the thousands currently on remand without trial.
What the justice of the matter requires is that even when they are rightly accused, they should be expeditiously tried. When you don't try them speedily, the Constitution says that they should be released conditionally or unconditionally. To that extent, you cannot keep somebody in remand prisons for 14 years and 6 months without trial. I mean, that is a complete abuse of the person's right. It violates our Constitution, it violates our obligations under all international human rights instruments, the UN Declaration on Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. It violates all of them. So we believe that this case actually brings to fore the real issues of human rights violations and abuses in our police service and prison service, and how ready our courts are to vindicate those rights.
Francis Susu is hoping for a more progressive justice system as a human rights lawyer.
If the court does not order that people be kept in remand, they will not be kept in remand. I am looking forward to a more progressive criminal justice system, where for very minor offenses, courts would prescribe other forms of fines or community work other than confinement in prisons. Because until our courts begin to advance those alternative means of punishment, our prisons will continue to be congested, and the prison service, given their budgetary allocations as they have complained, there will be very little they can do about it.
Whatever the outcome is of the Francis Ejari versus the IGP and the Attorney General, he is confident it will make an impact on the country's judicial system.
We're taking a break now. We have business news coming up next.
News. We'll be telling you about how prices of goods and services have gone up, of course, here on Joy Business with me, Abigail Adomakwenchi. Now, the year-on-year inflation rate is up from 13.8% in January to 14% in February this year, the highest since March 2010. This was as a result of housing, utility and the upward adjustment in petroleum prices, recording a high inflation rate of 38.9%.
The monthly change rate for February 2014 was 1.1% against the 3.9% recorded in January 2014. Following recent adjustments in the prices of petroleum products, transport emerged one of the key drivers of the current inflation rate, which recorded a rate of 26.8%, above the non-food group average year-on-year inflation rate of 19%.
If fuel prices is increased by, say, 10%, the direct effect is that it causes the inflation. The 10% is a direct effect on the inflation. It will let the inflation go up by 10%, not necessarily 10%, depending on the weight. You see, but its indirect effect is the transport costs. Because you see, industry also use fuel. So once fuel price go up, it increase their cost per production. So part of it also is given to the consumers in the form of by price increases. So its indirect effect can be anything at all. You see, the same thing applies also to utilities.
He added that the automatic tariff adjustment system in place will only add to the inflationary pressure.
If a producer anticipates that there will be fuel price increases, then he will by all means factor that into his pricing. There was a time that we were increasing fuel prices once. At the beginning of the year in the budget, we calculate and estimate something. Maybe we say that within the year we expect fuel prices to increase by, say, 10% or 20%, and we put in the budget at the beginning of the year. And throughout the year, fuel price or utility price will not be increased again. So that one, once it comes once, and in the course of the year, producers knows, or sellers knows, or importers know, once fuel price will increase at the beginning of the year, they don't expect any fuel price or utility price increase again. Then they can plan very well. But as they anticipate, well, now they say the formula they are using. So people will always anticipate that there will be price increase. So that one alone can cause a lot of inflation in the country.
Food and non-alcoholic beverages group also recorded an average year-on-year inflation rate of 7.5%, with cereals and products recording 7% inflation, above the average food inflation.
Well, former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Akoto says the profitability of Ghana's economy cannot be determined by how well banks are doing. Speaking at the Graphic Fidelity Economic Dialogue in Accra, he said the fundamentals of the economy are not sound and that Ghana is losing its credibility on deficit reduction. He does not believe that profitability of commercial banks is a reflection of the country's standing.
The Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Moses Asaga, in his address to the Progressive Motion and Economic Status of Ghana, says the records of profitability of every bank is a reflection of the country's standing. He also said, in order to see the development of Ghana's economy, one needs not to look far, and that in fact, the growth of the economy can be seen within the development of buildings and the skyscrapers. But former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Dr. Anthony Akotowase, disagrees. Ghana currently faces major deficit challenges and a huge public sector which blamed on the implementation of the single-spine salary structure.
Well, in other news, the Bank of Ghana has indicated it would review some of the recent foreign exchange measures, especially those that are badly affecting businesses. The central bank last February introduced a new set of measures aimed at stabilizing the Ghana cedi. However, a source close to the bank says the review would not affect all the directives, but just those that have brought some untold hardship to enterprises. Meanwhile, the regulator says it would soon go after institutions quoting different exchange rates for the dollar apart from the official Bank of Ghana rates. Checks by Joy Business has revealed that some commercial banks and institutions are seriously flouting the central bank laws on exchange rates, but the regulator says it would soon go after these banks and institutions. Of course, that should come as good news to some institutions, but away from that, as part of efforts to improve quality of service in the telecommunications sector, a stakeholders forum has been held to address some of the issues affecting service delivery. The forum provides a platform for networking among key players to share ideas and build consensus for the future.
The Digital Family Forum forms part of an initiative by the Ministry of Communication to bring stakeholders together to dialogue on improving the sector. Director General of the National Communication Authority spoke about efforts to ensure enhancement of internet connectivity in the country to open up opportunities for development.
In the area of infrastructure, we have to date licensed 5 submarine cable operators. And what these cable operators do is that they bring the international fibers to the shores, and then from the shores these are taken inland, which gets used by corporates and ISPs and trickling down the line to the retail users. In terms of capacity from these 5 submarine cable landings, Ghana today has in excess of 13 terabits of bandwidth. That's far in excess of what we need as a country.
Chief Executive of the Ghana Chamber of Telcos, Kweku Sechi Ado, also called on government to make it a priority to remove taxes on end-user terminal devices if it is asked to boost internet penetration in the country.
The government should seriously consider removing the 20% import duty on handsets. It will increase affordability of telecoms products. That in turn will lead to usage, and that in turn will increase tax revenue from CST. The current measure breeds corruption and smuggling, and there's a risk that our projected revenues from this source will not be realized, while access to telecoms products and its knock-on social and economic outcomes are stifled.
Minister of Communication Dr. Omane Boama noted there is still a lot to be done in ensuring cybersecurity in the country. He said a national cybersecurity strategy will soon be put before Cabinet for approval.
We definitely need to provide confidence and security in the use of electronic communications in Ghana. You will recall the police report of 2,140,000 prank calls made to the Ghana Police Service and the Ghana National Fire Service in 2013. This is surely not the right use of the opportunities we are blessed with. Similarly, much as I reject the bogus assertion that Ghana ranked second in cyber crimes in Africa on grounds of lack of evidence by those who subscribe to this position, I wish to assure you that tomorrow Cabinet will be considering the National Cybersecurity Strategy for approval and subsequent robust implementation. Ghana believes in cyber peace.
The Digital Family Forum brought together policymakers, regulatory authorities, the private sector, civil society, among others, to identify measures to improve the communication sector. Matilda Pamaga for Joy News.
And that's it for business. For more news, do log on to myjoyonline.com. Sports is up next.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports, and telecommunication firm Telecom have launched a promotional package to select 25 Ghanaians to Brazil with an all-expense-paid trip to witness the 2014 World Cup. The promotion, dubbed Let's Go Brazil, ends on May 31 and requires prepaid subscribers on the Glow network to recharge a minimum of 15 Ghana cedis over the two-month period. Akim Hazim is head of business at Glow Ghana.
Being a sport-loving brand, Glow Mobile Ghana has decided to sponsor 25 Ghanaians, comprising 22 of our loyal prepaid subscribers and 3 of our industrial trade dealers to Brazil for a stay between June and July. To facilitate a fair selection of the lucky customer, we have come up with an exciting promo called Let Us Go to Brazil. And this is how it will work. From now till 31st of May 2014, prepaid customers of Glow who cumulatively recharge their line with a minimum of 15 Ghana cedi top time stand a good chance of being selected for an all-expense paid round trip to Brazil to watch and share Ghana to free trip. We are provided for exciting consolatory prices for more than 1,000 subscribers who may not be lucky enough to go to Brazil, but nonetheless deserve to enjoy some of the fun of the Let's Go to Brazil promo. 1,000 gross customers will also win airtime worth 10 Ghana cedi, which should be credited to their main account.
More news as we prepare for the World Cup, and CAF boss Issa Hayatou has set a semi-final target for Africa's 5 representatives of the 2014 FIFA World Cup in Brazil. No African country has made it to the last 4 since the inception of the World Cup, but Hayatou is confident Africa can reverse the trend at this summer's World Cup. CAF boss Issa Hayatou has nudged the 5 African teams at the 2014 FIFA World Cup, including the Black Stars of Ghana, to strive to reach the last 4. Pana reports that no African team has ever gone beyond the quarter-final stage of the global football extravaganza. But Issa Hayatou insists a last 4 berth at the June 12 to July 13 event by any of Africa's flag bearers in Brazil will be an icing on the cake, and stress this will be for the successes African football has recorded, especially in the last 26 years of CAF. Africa's 5 representatives of the tournament are the Desert Foxes of Algeria, Cameroon's Indomitable Lions, the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana's Black Stars, and Nigeria's Super Eagles. Only 3 African teams, Cameroon, Ghana and Senegal, have ever reached the quarterfinals of the FIFA World Cup. This was since Africa's first representation by Egypt at the 1934 World Cup in Italy. FIFA President Sepp Blatter has announced that there will be no speeches at the opening ceremony of this year's World Cup in Brazil. This follows the booing of Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff at the opening ceremony of the Confederation Cup last year in Brasilia. Football's world governing body FIFA has announced that there will be no speeches at the opening ceremony of the World Cup in June. Last year, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff was booed by fans at the opening match of the Confederations Cup, which is a traditional curtain raiser for the World Cup. FIFA head Sepp Blatter expressed concern about the social unrest in Brazil, but is hopeful the event will play a part in calming down the protests. Protesters took to the streets of many Brazilian cities shortly before the Confederations Cup in June 2013. They denounced corruption and the perceived high cost of preparation for the World Cup and the 2016 Olympics, which will be hosted by Rio de Janeiro. Mr. Blatter, however, did not elaborate on his decision to scrap the speeches from the opening ceremony. But last year, he came out in support of Ms. Rousseff when she was booed by football fans as she opened the Confederations Cup in Brasilia. Also, it'll be very interesting. A World Cup without any opening speech. That's interesting. But before we get into the UEFA Champions League, let me tell you, Medeama FC beat Accra Hearts by 2-1 in the first Capital Plus Premier League. So, very disappointing news for Accra Hearts over there. They still stay second. Medeama get into the top 4. Now, let's talk about the UEFA Champions League. 2 games currently underway. We're all looking at that game between Barcelona and Manchester City. Let's find out what's happening so far in the particular game. Not so much to talk about. Remember that the first leg, Barcelona beat Man City by 2-0. And lately in the Champions League, it's been highly predictable. That's exactly what we're seeing here. The scoreline is goalless between the two sides at the Camp Nou. If nothing changes, Barcelona should go through. I'm not sure you bet against Barcelona not going through this one. It's pretty much set, and you can see the number of yellow cards already accrued by Man City, indicating the pressure they're currently under. we can now look at the other game. And this particular game between Paris Saint-Germain and Bayer Leverkusen is a dead rubber, really, because Paris Saint-Germain beat Bayer Leverkusen the first leg by 4-0. What we see now is a 1-all draw, currently clean plate, and so the aggregate scoreline is 5-1. Not too sure anything can change. We're very sure Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain will get into the next stage of the competition. That will be all for sports tonight. My name is George Adi Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
Sports was brought to you.
Ring your showbiz. Supporters of the New Patriotic Party in Kumasi say they will not vote in 2016 if Nana Akufo-Addo decides not to contest the flag bearership of the party for the 2016 election. The hundreds of supporters who poured out onto the principal streets of the metropolis to welcome the 2012 MPP flag bearer chanted, "No Nana, no vote," calling on him to declare his stance. Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo first addressed the party supporters at Georgia Hotel, where he called on them to unite as a strong force for the 2016 general elections. He said the New Patriotic Party is the strongest party in Ghana and that Ghanaians look up to the party. Right up next, the showbiz.
Showbiz.
Gospel artist Akese Brimpong has made Ghana proud with his single Crazy Love. Akese's Crazy Love is proudly sitting at number 10 of Gospel Innovation's World Top 20 Gospel Music Charts for the month of March. Now, how often do you pay your taxes, and how best can government widen the tax net to avoid evasions and raking money for development? The Ghana Integrity Initiative, GII, is demanding the government reviews its tax regime as a first step in addressing the country's economic inequalities. Do you agree with this call? Executive Director of GII, Vitus Azim, speaks to Nana Nsakwal on PM Express tonight at 9 p.m. That comes up right after the bulletin. Stay tuned and share your thoughts with us. Now, to wrap up the bulletin, a recap of our top stories. The Ghana Highway Authorities to close off a section of the Kratom motorway for about 5 weeks following damage to a bridge there. A $100 million investment sunk into the Korle Lagoon restoration project has gone down the drain. Ban on use of motorbikes by men in Bawku, Pisiga and Binduri takes a heavy toll on business, health and education. A New Patriotic Party supporters in Kumasi gave rousing welcome to the party's 2012 flag bearer as he arrives in the city to meet the Asante Hene. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel Lion. Have a good evening.